Hey, it's Kelly. Welcome back to my channel where we talk all about gentle skincare, sometimes self-care, and today we're talking 5 things that happened to my skin when I stopped using tretinoin. So as I've shared over the last couple of months, I did stop using tretinoin, which I was using for 4.5 consecutive years, a long time. But I recently decided to discontinue that. And so today I want to talk about why I decided to do that, but also, some of the fears that I had about stopping my tretinoin use, what I'm doing instead, and how my skin has responded. So if you're so ready, give the video a big thumbs up and let's get started. So I have shared a lot about my tretinoin journey here on my channel, but I did decide to discontinue it back in the spring. So after 4 years, why did I, choose to stop using this fantastic ingredient that I've been raving about for a really long time, right? Well, really it was rooted in the spirit of experimentation, quite honestly. I do show up here on YouTube every single week, multiple times a week, and I do share my experiences and my opinions about skincare, but also about building skincare routines, skincare advice, tips, different philosophies for approaching your skincare. And I am the experiment, you know what I mean? It truly is through my experience that I'm able to share with you. And I felt like tretinoin was getting in the way of my ability to experiment and to experience. Of course, it definitely held me back from being able to review certain types of products. I mean, AHAs, BHAs, vitamin C, you don't see a lot of reviews like that from me. And of course, not any other type of retinoid, right? Because tretinoin does not allow me to test those types of products with my sensitive skin and using tretinoin, right? If I wasn't doing YouTube, if I was just doing skincare and not sharing my opinions and my experience, I'd probably just stick with tretinoin because it was working great for me. I have nothing against tretinoin. I'm not here to convince anybody to stop tretinoin if they absolutely love it, but I do want to share this experience for folks who are maybe thinking, yeah, it is kind of a hard ingredient for me to be able to use other actives that I'm interested in, or it is causing some side effects that I'm not super comfortable with. What is it like to stop? Because that's the thing with tretinoin. You think, I don't know that once I get started if I'm going to be able to stop. And that was the one thing, because I have to say this idea has been in my mind for a while, but that was the one thing that was holding me back, was like, what is going to happen to my skin when I stop using tretinoin? So I had 3 big fears in my mind about what I thought could potentially happen to my skin when I stopped using tretinoin. The first one was more breakouts. I am very prone to congestion and clogged pores, and those can turn into active and inflamed acne. And so keeping up with a really good, consistent, active routine that helps to treat that has been marvelous for my skin. So my fear was stepping away from tretinoin was going to equal more breakouts, more congestion, more clogged pores on my skin. I also was afraid that my skin was going to get very uneven and dull. I am prone to hyperpigmentation. Tretinoin can help to address that. And the third fear that I had with stopping tretinoin was, of course, the loss of the well-aging benefits. I am in my mid-30s, you know what I mean? Collagen stimulation is a serious game for me, and it is a really important strategy for aging well for anybody. Tretinoin is one of the best ways to do it. It clearly is not the only way to do it, not at all. But even knowing that, you still have this fear that I'm using the very best ingredient. So if I step back, if I lower the percentage, or if I stop using that completely and I use something weaker or over the counter, am I going to lose the collagen stimulation? Am I going to lose some firmness in my skin? Am I going to see more fine lines cropping up? Is my skin going to be less firm and plump and smooth and lifted? Am I going to start to look old? When I stopped using tretinoin, I just went right into a routine with a different retinoid. I personally have chosen retinaldehyde over retinol because I am an experienced retinoid user. I decided that retinaldehyde was probably the right choice for me and for my skin, since, as I mentioned, I was in a good spot with tretinoin. I wasn't experiencing any irritation at that moment in time, and so it seemed like the right transitional ingredient. And so it was easy for me to just go from tretinoin into the retinaldehyde without any break or gap in between. All right, so I stopped stopped using tretinoin 5 months ago, and I started in with a whole new skincare routine. So it's been 5 months, and these are the 5 things that happened to my skin once I stopped using tretinoin. Number 1, less dryness and less peeling on my skin. Although I had gotten to a good spot with my tretinoin use, you cannot deny that it just makes your skin drier. You know what I mean? It just takes up some of your skin's natural oil. And while I do have a combination skin type, as I've shared many times here on my channel, my skin type fluctuates with the weather. So in the winter here where I live, it gets cold, it gets dry, and so does my skin. It gets very dry, and that definitely seems even more pronounced with my tretinoin use. Like the dryness is even more dry, right? And then I am prone to dehydration seasonally as well, and that seemed to ramp up with the use of tretinoin. And then of course I do suffer with seasonal allergies, and that actually can create some sensitivity on my skin. And again, those were things that would kind of clash with my tretinoin. So definitely I felt a lot more dryness on my skin when I was using tretinoin, and I would go through very, very occasional bouts of peeling skin. That is usually a side effect of when you first start using tretinoin, but it can sometimes crop up even if you're further in your journey and you've been using it for a long time, due to things like dryness on the skin, right? I noticed sometimes my skin would peel more when I was using more hot water with like baths and showers and things like that too. So sometimes other factors would just make my skin so much more sensitive to the tretinoin use. So since I stopped using tretinoin, it still remains to be seen about winter dryness. I will definitely still feel dry in the winter, but even as we're going deeper into the fall months, I am feeling my skin type change. I'm just not feeling it change as drastically as it did when I was using tretinoin over the last couple of years. My dryness just seems a little bit better under control, and I also feel like while my skin still benefits from an intense amount of moisture and richness, right? I feel like I don't always need that. I feel like I've been able to skip out on some of the oils and the additional creams and things that I really like to put on my skin because of tretinoin. I've been able to pull some of that back. And I definitely have not experienced any peeling or flaking on my skin since I stopped using tretinoin. The second thing that happened is that I'm able to use more actives throughout my weekly skincare routines. Yeah, when I stopped using tretinoin, which by the way, my tretinoin was a compound formula that also included tranexamic acid, azelaic acid, niacinamide. It did make it quite a potent cream, and that meant I was only able to use it about 3 nights a week. So 3 times a week is when I was just using actives. Everything else outside of tretinoin was just basic hydrating, moisturizing types of skincare products. I really was not building a consistent routine around any other types of actives except for that compound formula. And that was simply due to the fact that every time I tried to build something else in, particularly AHA, which I've been very interested in using consistently in my routines to help treat hyperpigmentation and sun damage, but I just cannot tolerate both within the same skincare week, if you will, right? It's just too much for my skin. And we know that really when it comes to skincare, when you want to see success, you have to be consistent. So me being able to use an AHA once or twice a month, depending on how my skin is doing, it's not helpful, right, for those long-term goals. So building in some room for azelaic acid, building in some room for the retinaldehyde rather than tretinoin, but I've also been able to build in room for AHA as well. And I actually am able to use actives back to back on all my nightly routines. I take one day off just because that's part of my skincare philosophy, is just kind of giving your skin a break and a breather and all of that. But I don't necessarily feel that I have to take it due to my skin feeling raw or sensitive or irritated. It's just, like I said, it's part of my philosophy. The third thing that happened is that my skincare routines have become a lot more simple, which is interesting because, as I mentioned, I've brought more individual active products into my weekly skincare routines, but quite honestly, my core skincare routine has pared down a little bit. I do find that I don't have to put on so many layers because I love them. First of all, I love lots of layers, and my skin is actually good at accepting a lot of skincare products. It's something that just works for me individually. Even prior to using tretinoin, I use very, 8 to 10 step skincare routines even even before tretinoin. But I did find when I started on tretinoin, I was very strategically building in every step, essentially as a protective layer between me and the tretinoin, right? A really thick buffer layer to help slow that tretinoin down as it was getting into my sensitive skin, and that would kind of help to delay and kind of soften the irritation, right, and the sensitivity that tretinoin can cause. And so I found that I was often using 2 serums in a routine, multiple essences, right, lots of extra layers of cream and slugging. I have found that since I've discontinued tretinoin, very naturally, a lot of my skincare routines have become a bit more simple. And I do want to preface that again by saying I love lots of layers. My skin enjoys it. It does very well with that. And so I do still continue to perform longer skincare routines because I do just genuinely enjoy them. But I find oftentimes I'm not doubling up on products like serums. I found that I would often build in a strategic barrier strengthening or an anti-irritation type of serum to go alongside of my tretinoin. And now I've just completely eliminated the serum step when I use retinaldehyde. Retinaldehyde is the serum, you know what I'm saying? So that's one product that's been eliminated from my skincare routine. It's not necessary. If I want it, I'll put it in there, right? But I don't feel that I need it. I don't feel that I am creating this layer of protection, as I was mentioning before, between me and this aggressive active ingredient. I'm just kind of building more routines that make my skin feel good. The fourth thing that happened to my skin that was really surprising to me is that my skin actually got clearer. Yeah, I'm less prone to congestion and breakouts now, 5 months off of tretinoin, than I was using tretinoin. And this really surprised me because, as I mentioned, one of my fears and anxieties was definitely around congested skin and breakouts. I thought that my skin was going to become more acne prone from stopping tretinoin, which was a very powerful medicine that was keeping my skin clear, right? So this is very surprising, and I think there's a couple of reasons for it. First and foremost, I do believe that the tretinoin was just mildly irritating my skin, like long term. Even though I felt like I was in a good spot, like I said, sometimes it would be very up and down for me depending on the season, depending on where my skin was at. And the reality is my skin is my job. I'm always kind of testing out new things. And so all those different things, yeah, sometimes they're not always the best thing for my personal skin. And so I think along with the tretinoin, I just think that I was a little bit more prone to irritation breakouts. You know what I'm saying? Just because my skin was often in a state of sensitivity or of inflammation. And sometimes that was due to the tretinoin. Sometimes it was due to other stuff I was using and then putting tretinoin on top. There's a lot of things, right? But I think having sensitive skin, being prone to inflammation, being prone to all of that, one of the ways that my skin manifests a weak moisture barrier is actually through inflamed pimples. Now that I've been off of tretinoin, I didn't really go through a period of my skin breaking out when I stopped tretinoin because, as I crucially mentioned earlier, I went right into a retinaldehyde routine, and I stuck with my azelaic acid as well, which is amazing for keeping your pores clear. So I changed up the products and I changed up different percentages and things like that too. But I did keep a good active routine targeted at congestion and acne, and that's very important to remember. And I think that's why I got the results that I got so quickly. But I also feel like because I'm able to cycle through my active 6 days a week, right? Sometimes 7 if I really want to. As I mentioned, I do like to take break days, but sometimes I just keep going and my skin feels good. So I'm constantly getting the skin cell turnover. I'm constantly getting the pore, deep diving, cleansing within the pore lining. I'm constantly getting the dead skin cell shedding. I'm constantly getting all the things that I need to avoid the congestion and the acne in the first place. I'm just getting more exposure to it throughout the week. Tretinoin, 3 nights a week, good results, but it's not constant exposure, right? And consistency is more important than constantly blasting your skin with actives. In my personal opinion, I do still believe that. However, I think that I've gotten to a clearer spot with my skin because I discontinued the really aggressive ingredient that was doing amazing things for my skin, right? But was kind of putting me in this back and forth position, right? Into a weaker routine, if you will, but a more consistent routine. And the fifth thing that happened is I don't think that I've lost any collagen or elasticity or firmness in my skin at all. As I mentioned, one of my anxieties around stopping tretinoin was, would I lose my progress with my well-aging journey? Would I rapidly start to see the effects of stopping such a potent collagen stimulating ingredient on my skin? And 5 months is a good enough time to feel like you have an inkling of which way that might go. It might still be too soon to say for sure, but I feel pretty confident after 5 months, and I'm going like almost into my 6th month at this point. 6-ish months out to say, no, I have not lost my progress. And in fact, I feel like maybe my skin is even better. Like I said, I definitely have noticed more, less congestion with my skin, more clear skin for sure with the breakouts. I don't think that I've lost any firmness to my skin, any plumpness to my skin. I haven't noticed any new fine lines and wrinkles coming in. I haven't noticed any loss of elasticity whatsoever. Well, aging is always a holistic approach, and I've always advocated for that on my channel. And here comes my advice back to me as I was saying, rebuilding a skincare routine without tretinoin. It's not just about tretinoin. It's not just about retinaldehyde or your retinoid or your collagen stimulator of choice. It's how everything comes together. So yes, I'm getting collagen stimulating from my retinaldehyde. I'm also getting it from the glycolic acid. I'm also getting it from the peptide serums that I'm using on a consistent basis that are targeted towards firming the skin and stimulating collagen. I'm also getting it from the 5% of niacinamide that I use in all of my skincare routines through my Lipid Gold serum. 5% of niacinamide stimulates collagen. And I am a very avid, very strict user of sunscreen, which is a collagen protecting ingredient. And you know that I don't just stop at sunscreen, but I'm also a big advocate for hats, protective clothing, sometimes even sun patches, right? So I do a lot outside of tretinoin. I always have. Those are all good holistic habits for building a routine that is going to keep your progress going with preventing the signs of aging on the skin, for keeping your collagen stimulation up, preventing the fine lines and wrinkles, but also, even if you do get some fine lines and wrinkles too, aging in a way that feels right for you, right? In a graceful way. And so, yeah, I don't feel like, all of a sudden I hit it like this wall and rapidly aging in front of your eyes. It's not, logically, we know that that's not going to happen, right? But emotionally, there's a fear that it might happen like that. But I feel so good about the routine that I've been able to build because stopping tretinoin gave me space to build this type of routine. A lot of the anxieties and fears that I had about stopping just did not ever come to fruition. So bottom line, tretinoin is an amazing ingredient. I absolutely love what it did for my skin for all those years. But I do think it is important to share the other side of the experience, is that it is maybe not the right choice for everybody, and it may not be the right long-term choice for everybody. That's why I wanted to share my experience, because it's not the one that everybody's always talking about necessarily, but that doesn't mean that it cannot work for you. There's a lot of different ways for us to approach our skincare journeys, our well-aging journeys. And so, yeah, it was a really interesting experiment for me. As I mentioned, I've left the door open to tretinoin. I may walk through that door again. Don't be surprised if you see me do that. But quite honestly, right now, I'm so happy with where I'm at. And it has opened up a whole new inspiration, you know what I mean, for me and for the types of products that I'm able to test and to consider for myself and my sensitive skin. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you had any questions about, why I chose to do this, I hope that I answered it here in the video. And I'm curious, are you using tretinoin? Are you using retinoids over the counter, or are you using something else for your well-aging journey? There's really no wrong answer. So let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more from me, come join our skincare community by hitting subscribe. I'm very active here on YouTube throughout the week. I do long form videos and I do shorts, so definitely turn on notifications so you're never out of the loop. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you for making me being able to share my skincare journey a possibility here on this channel, because I can't do it without you. I'm so grateful to you, and I hope that you are healthy, happy, and safe. I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.